Yo, what up? Toshi here. I recently made a poll on the channel, and to what surprised me, there ended up being a vast number of people that are very interested in rolling for Luocha, compared to people that were going to skip him entirely. I didn't expect there to be a pretty much near 50-50 split. However, I realized that there isn't very many abundance characters in the game, but the value he brings to the table is part of the reason why, even though he is just an abundance character at his core, he's still a very valuable and sought after character. Or maybe it is just his golden hair. Let me explain. So we talked about all of the classes in the game, but the abundance sticks out to me most because they do something no other class really does. Now, of course, there's always exceptions to the rule, and March 7th is one of those characters. She can cleanse like an abundance character, but she is a part of the preservation. However, with the current abundance characters we have, the only cleanser we have currently is Natasha. Bailu can't cleanse, but she does heal a crap ton. She does keep your team relatively healthy. She keeps them even more tanky because of her invigoration and the built-in damage reduction with the invigoration with her traces. And on top of that, she has a revive if all things go south. While Natasha providing a ton of healing for the team overall and being able to cleanse a debuff from an ally is something that makes these two characters very invaluable in this roster. But what if I told you a upcoming character, Luocha, is going to change everything? Now, I understand why you probably want to skip Luocha. Maybe you have two healers on your account already, or maybe you have a healer and a shooter. March 7th, I think, is a very strong healer, soft healer, a very strong soft cleanser, and a very strong shielder all around. So maybe you have this character maxed out to E6. You don't necessarily need another healer or shooter on your account. Maybe you have Jeopard, who is an amazing 5-star ice shielder character. Maybe you don't need any healer after that because you already have Natasha in your account, which is a character we all got for free. If that's looking like your account, I can understand why exactly you want to skip Luocha. But maybe you have both of those things considered and you just want another healer. Because I do believe that healers will have more value long term, or Hoyo will make sure that they have more value long term. Let me explain. As strong as a character like March 7th is, she has a cleanse and she has a slight heal in her kit, which honestly makes her more valuable than shielder characters currently. I think that gives her a kind of edge over the characters long term when it comes to longevity of the kit. If we take a look at the Trailblaze main character, the Preservation version, you understand that this character only provides shields and a taunt for the team, and that's pretty much it. There isn't any healing and there isn't any cleansing effects that the character has overall in terms of utility. So I think long term, whenever there's an effect like corrosion that is implemented in Honkai Star Rail, this character will fall off a cliff. However, there is a character like Natasha that will be able to provide the cleanse effect that March 7th has while also being able to heal. So I think she's going to be a very invaluable character long term. But we also do have a character like Luocha who is on the way, which we understand that he is going to not only cleanse a debuff from your ally with his elemental skill, he's also going to be able to be skill point neutral, skill point positive even, because he will be able to do his elemental skill without having to press it himself, which in turn gives healing when he doesn't need to use a skill point for said healing. And that's every couple of turns, of course, but that's still really valuable when you take into consideration the team comps he'll be in and how skill point heavy some of these DPS characters are. But we do understand that there's a character like Bailu who provides tons of value with her, not only her healing, her mass scale healing, her invigoration, and also her overhealing. Being able to overheal your allies means you're going to make them relatively more tanky. We do also understand that Bailu does have invigoration and then has a bonus ability on top of the invigoration, which makes it to where your allies will receive less damage whenever they're hit if they have invigoration on them. This in turn makes her a sort of pseudo-preservation character with the built-in damage reduction she has. And of course, the overheal she provides for the ally makes them more tankier than they originally are, which in turn makes her a much better character. She has the preservation-like trait with the overheal and the damage reduction. But there is times whenever you do your runs in Simulated Universe, even, or maybe you do your runs in Memories of Chaos, whenever you don't have a cleanser on your team, you get stunned, and it's one of the worst things that could happen when you're doing your runs. And I get that 100%. And that's when characters like Luocha would have more value than a character like Bailu. But we also do understand that there is the reality where Bailu doesn't do any damage at all. Go as far as to say this character is only just here to generate skill points whenever you're not using your healing effects because your invigoration, maybe your invigoration has tons of healing already for the allies, or maybe you just overheal them anyway, so then you don't have to use your elemental skills to heal even more. But there's some times where I don't even catch myself using the revive at all. It is just simply a safety net. That isn't necessarily needed 95% of the time. But we understand that a character like Luocha will be an attack scaling healer. Now, I could understand that on the opposite side of this, you could be like, well, attack scaling healers, they can provide more damage for your team comps overall, but that's all they could really do. Now, and I get that 100%. Being able to scale based off of attack means you'll have a much squishy healer abundance character overall. But what if I told you didn't necessarily have to build him with as much attack as you think you do? You just simply need to build him with enough attack to be able to heal your characters and have them relatively healthy. You can still give him as much attack as you want if you want to play a much more riskier playstyle version of Luocha as a hybrid healer / damage dealer. Go for it. But you will get most value out of this character with building him as a regular abundance character, but having him much more tankier than a Luocha that's not as tanky but has more attack and crit stats added to it. But there's simply different ways to use the character, and I think that's going to make him a very nice character long term, kind of like what we talked about in the last video when it came to hybrid characters. We understand that he has the Abyss Flower in this kit, which means he's going to provide healing to the team passively. They will be healing whenever they attack and deal damage. That's going to be very nice because for a character that is not only going to be very skill point neutral every couple of turns with his elemental skill, but also being able to provide healing for the team passively is what makes him a very good abundance character. It's something Natasha can't really do. We understand that he does cleanse debuffs from an ally, which is very good at that with his elemental skill. He also dispels buffs from the enemy with his elemental ult, which is very good because it's AoE, so you can dispel multiple buffs at once. I think what makes it even more valuable is if you take a character like Seal, for example. If you were to use these two characters together, maybe you already use a character like Natasha with your Seal, and you find yourself fighting against the Mara-struck enemies. You understand how frustrating it is to use Seal against those enemies. You essentially have to one-shot them, and if you don't one-shot them, then you don't get your additional turn. But let's say you don't have your ult already charged up. You have to really, what I'm trying to say is you have to jump through hoops in order to make Seal work against Mara-struck enemies. But what if I told you Luocha is going to be the puzzle piece that Seal needs in order to find her, or in order to use the character in multiple situations that you wouldn't previously otherwise have used her in? And that's for most E0 Seals, not the ones that have her maxed out E6 or 5. For those of you, this probably wouldn't apply anyways. And those of you that are going to roll for Luocha, and you probably maybe have this light cone on your account, if you have this light cone, you will find a lot of value using this on the character. Not only do you increase your max HP by a certain percentage, which is going to be very valuable for a character you don't really want to be too squishy, and then you also increase the outgoing healing, which is going to make it to where you're doing more healing overall, which is good for a character that mostly heals with his whole kit. And then the outgoing healing value you provide for the team is going to do damage amplification for any ally that attacks the enemy. And I think whenever you take into consideration that this may have synergy with his Abyss Flower in his kit, which is passively healing the team, kind of like Bailu's Invigoration, you probably will find a lot more value in this light cone than you think you would have otherwise. And it took someone commenting this on a YouTube video recently that we posted for me to take this into consideration, so thank you. This honestly might change everything. But I think with all things considered, he is just a healer at his core, and I can understand you skipping him because of that. You probably already have options in place to where you don't necessarily need another healer. And honestly, if you're not really pushing Memories of Chaos, you probably don't necessarily need a healer to begin with. With that being said, there will be more characters along the way that are going to not only heal, probably dispel buffs from the enemy, maybe even dispel debuffs from your team, which will then take the place of Luocha as a healer and cleanser, essentially. But who knows how long it may be before we get another healer character. Could be 4-star, could be 5-star, but let's just be honest. Hoyoverse probably see fit in not releasing a healer for a very long time just to get people to roll for Luocha because of that. Because, we know who we're talking about here. I stream sometimes, I guess, on Twitch, twitch.tv/Toshio. The link will be in the description. Of course, let me know if you're going to roll for Luocha. I did have the poll up, so if you haven't already checked the poll out, I suggest you check it out. Let me know if you're going to roll for him or not, or skip, because I'd like to take that into consideration when it comes to making videos long term. Thank you for watching, and have a nice rest of your day. Peace.